Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1536 of our daily content grind. This is another tokusatsu video, which means the algorithm is going to hate this and it's not going to tell everybody I posted it. But I don't care. This is kind of huge and I need to discuss it with you all now. I don't care if the algorithm hates it. Guys, it's official. It's official. It's like we've unfriended on Facebook, official. Super Sentai, as of, I guess early next year, will be no more. It was announced, we kind of knew this was coming. We've seen a lot of speculation, but a lot of things that were all over the place, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But first off, let's go over to the official announcement, because I kept telling everybody, until I hear something directly from Toei, I don't care what they've trademarked or what you've heard speculated, it doesn't apply until they finally say it's over. The producer just said it's over. The president of TV Asahi, the channel that has been airing Super Sentai continuously for 50 years, has officially sent his thank you for Super Sentai going for so long, and confirmed that yes, as of as of our current series, it is over. They said a revival for Super Sentai is possible, but it is not the discussion at the moment. So, just earlier this year, the producers for Super Sentai were talking about potentially making it all the way to, like, the number they said was 2033, and I don't know why they initially shot for that number. We do know that it takes a couple years to develop these series, from like the design inception to the toy creation to the scripting of episodes. So we do know it takes a lot of stuff on the back end to get these shows produced. So it's potentially possible that Toei, and as such, TV Asahi, were expecting series for, close to another decade worth. Unfortunately, when the TV channel says you're done, you're done. So yeah, that's essentially what happened. So we've kind of discussed this before, because yeah, this was when this news dropped, we talked about it a lot, but we need to go into it a little bit more now before we get into all the new stuff, because the new stuff is wild. So all those rumors that we had been hearing about in the weeks after the cancellation was first reported, all of that is completely out the window, because it seemed to change every single day. Originally we heard that Super Sentai was just being rebranded to get out of the Power Ranger contract. That was not accurate. That's not what happened. It's not what's going to happen. They are specifically stating right now there is no plan to bring back Super Sentai as of this moment. The whole universe heroes, no idea where that came from. That's completely out of nowhere. And then, yeah, the idea of it becoming a streaming series, that is also off the table. Now, we knew that the whole Power Ranger side of it was part of the cancellation, but I don't think it's the part everyone was speculating on. Everyone said that, like, they were trying to rebrand Super Sentai in order to get out from the Power Ranger contract so they could market it to the West. And granted, that might have been a good plan for a while at first. However, now it's kind of looking like it was the Power Ranger contract and the licensing from said contract that might have been keeping Super Sentai afloat for so long. All of this kind of snowballed after Hasbro started basically killing off the Power Ranger franchise bit by bit, whether that was canceling the shows, ending the toy productions, and licensing it off to Playmates, and now with the new developments of the series, it's the current supposed reboot of the series being in limbo, but more importantly, not using anything from Toei. This is kind of big. It's kind of a big deal all the way around. But yeah, it might have been the licensing money that they were getting that was keeping Super Sentai viable, because we know that for years the toy sales had been flagging. like especially if you compare them to Kamen Rider, like everything Super Sentai toy sales after like Kamen Rider Double was just on this constant downward fall, while Kamen Rider just kept going up or maintaining. Like they've done exceptionally well in the toy market. And you can see where Super Sentai was trying to save itself by essentially going the same similar routes. What sold so well for Kamen Rider were the collectible gimmicks, so Super Sentai started incorporating those. We talked about this in the last video, but I genuinely feel like it's because the Sentai toys were never really designed around the gimmickry of the collectibles, so they always ended up feeling kind of hollow and not really worth it. For instance, I have a Capsum right here from Kamen Rider Zets. It's the Agito one, specifically. So, if I put this in the Zets driver, I'm going to get a unique henshin sequence if I go through the normal henshin process. But if I don't activate the Capsum, if I just spin it instead, I'm going to get a different sound effect. I'm also going to get different variations of sound effects during the finishers. I'm also going to get a different light combination from the LEDs. That's a lot for one little plastic ball to do in one belt. And I love how much a Kamen Rider gimmick tends to change up what the belts can do. That said, Super Sentai toys never really seemed to understand that. You know, it was enough for a Super Sentai toy to just light up. You know, it didn't matter different colors or anything. Just as long as it lights up, that was generally okay. You know, so the example I use is the Mobai rates from Gokaiger, where the only thing you got when you actually plugged the key in and turned it was the name of the Sentai, and then all the rest of the sound effects were the same. The light was the same because it was just a basic red LED. That was it. That was it. And Ranger keys sold well. I bought a ton of Ranger keys too, but they basically all did the exact same thing, with one very small minor variation, an important one, but still, it's one sound effect difference. And that's pretty much how all of Super Sentai's gimmickry and collectible gimmicks went. You know, the Judenshi here in the shot. You know, I got a bunch of these, but I got bored of them because they weren't really doing all that much different. You know, they shouted their name and they had one sound effect related to them, but you know, by comparison with what I was getting out of Rider toys at the time, it just seemed like it wasn't all that interesting. And we saw that with the designs in the series themselves. More and more, Kamen Rider was leaking into the design aesthetics of Super Sentai. They still kept the 5 or 6 man team and the different color schemes going, and you can tell they were trying to switch up the typical colors to try and get like a little bit of uniqueness into the teams. You know, Purple Ranger in the main team, very, very rare. But look at them. Those are Kamen Rider designs. You know, like right down to a belt in the middle that's standing out from the rest of the suit. That's a Kamen Rider design. It's more armor based than the traditional spandex. And that's kind of what they were doing. You know, it was the design style that was working with kids in Japan, so they tried to emulate that as well. So you got 2 runs of armor heroes at the same time instead of the traditional spandex heroes on one side, armor on another. You know, but it didn't work either, did it? Ratings continued to go down. Toy sales continued to go down. You can't save a sinking ship. For me, personally, I do feel like it was just the toys were not nearly as engaging as Kamen Rider stuff, but I also feel like it was the series that just became too formulaic and repetitive. That's one reason why I stopped following Super Sentai, is it just kind of felt like I was watching the same show. You know, big bad team of monsters shows up, ragtag group of heroes unites to fight them. We go through the same tropes in most series. In most series, I will expect 2 of the Rangers to swap minds to awkward results. Things like that. Like those tropes that you normally saw in Power Rangers, they did in Super Sentai as well. And that's kind of where my interest faded. Now, I know they've tried to start doing different things, but it was honestly too little too late at that point. You know, with a Kamen Rider series, you're basically looking at a completely different series in anime. You know, it's like an anime, or you know, you expect a different series every single time you sit down for it. Super Sentai always kind of felt sameish over the last few years. And I know they tried to right that ship, but, it's taken on too much water at that point. So that's going to be it. And it's weird. It's super weird. When we have a few Super Sentai toys in the toy shop, and whenever I bring those up and whenever I talk about them, I tell people like what we got as season 1 of Power Rangers was their season 16. And that is a series that has been running since the 70s and has never left television. And that sounds really incredible. And I don't get to do that anymore. It's a series that has been running, it's a series that ran for 50 straight years until it was canceled in 2026. Sucks. But that said, we have something new on the horizon. So this is the trademark that got everyone fired up as soon as it appeared. Now for me, I was looking at this and going like, this could be a movie, this could be for a toy line only thing, this could be for a web series. I wanted to know for sure exactly what this was before I got excited over anything. Super Space Sheriff Gavan Infinity. It's fascinating to me. Now, keep in mind, the whole reason Metal Hero exists is because back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, Toei really, really liked having a solid 1-hour block of tokusatsu shows for kids in the weekend. So they ran Super Sentai, but then when Kamen Rider started to fade out, they swapped in a completely different Armor Hero series, and that is what Gavan was, and that gave birth to the Metal Heroes. And then eventually the Metal Heroes fell off, and they brought back Kamen Rider. And Kamen Rider has been going ever since, from the Heisei to the Reiwa. So now we're trying it the same way. We're flipping it back. But rather than come up with just doing a new Metal Hero series, we're going back to the original. We're going back to like a modern version of Gavan, which is an interesting call. Now, we do know that Toei has been plotting this for quite some time. Gavan showed up again during Gokaiger and has been sporadically appearing ever since. He had his own movie to have a young, a young protege that would take over the role of Gavan. That said new character appeared in a few other things. So they did keep the train going, and they kept Gavan relevant because something in Toei kind of expected this. They saw the writing on the wall. They made the plans to make sure that Gavan stayed in awareness just enough to where if they have to pull the exact same trick, shelve one of our tokusatsu series, bring back Metal Heroes, then yeah, there would be the time to do it. Like, okay, so again, I wasn't excited over the trademark until official things were announced. Something official was announced. We have Project Red and the very first look at the new Gavan suit. And it's pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. It's got the shiny metallic nature of the original suit, Metal Hero suits. That's what I always differentiate them based on Kamen Rider. Kamen Riders are this glossy kind of rainbow reflective, like prismatic paint job, whereas Metal Heroes are chrome. Metal Heroes shine. They look like they're made of metal. And yeah, our new Gavan definitely seems to apply. This is all part of what they're calling Project Red, Records of Extraordinary Dimensions, which is kind of telling me that there was a rumor that this whole thing wasn't just a reboot of Gavan, but a way of them to go back and dot across a whole bunch of classic Toei tokusatsu without sticking to just a single one. And if we're talking, records of extraordinary dimensions, it certainly sounds like that we are going to go back and hit a lot of those random ones throughout the years. So for you Inazuman fans, your day may come yet. And if you haven't looked, Toei has a ridiculous number of 1-year tokusatsu series that just never really took off, but they do have some kind of weird legacy to them. Yeah, this sounds like they might be able to go and do anything like that. And geez, they might even be able to go back and do a reboot of Go Ranger or something crazy like that. it definitely feels like they're setting up to be able to do basically whatever they want with the second TV block that they've got, and Gavan just happens to be the first up. Don't know if another Metal Hero series is going to follow this, but this is what they've been prepping for a while. So yeah, new Metal Hero series on the way. Let's see a little bit of information on this, shall we? We do have a little bit of a blurb about this that's been translated. Introducing Toei's new tokusatsu series, Project Red, launching in 2006 with Super Space Sheriff Gavan Infinity. Yeah, and again, the way they're phrasing it makes me think that this is going to be more like a catch-all for every other tokusatsu that Toei has some kind of inkling to throw out. Since 1975, Japan's iconic Super Sentai series has defined the tokusatsu landscape. Now, after 50 years, Japan's weekly tokusatsu broadcast time slot will welcome a brand new project by Toei titled Project Red, short for Records of Extraordinary Dimensions. Project Red is a new tokusatsu series featuring a red hero in action. It does not necessarily say that the main hero is always going to be red, or if that is literally just for this one particular run. It does seem like it'd be rather limiting to make every hero red, though I will say that it is not coincidental that our new Gavan is red, which is weird considering we have other metal heroes that are known for being red in color. Gavan's aping their territory now, I guess. The project is slated to have numerous upcoming broadcast series with potential crossovers within Project Red. Numerous upcoming broadcast series with potential for crossovers with Project. Okay, so they're doing like multiple universes. So again, we might see some other random tokusatsus from Toei's history get in. We might see a weird reboot of a past Super Sentai. We might see just more Metal Hero. Like Metalder is a completely different vibe from Gavan, and Beef Fighter is a different vibe from both. So if they just dot around Metal Hero and start rebooting all of them, then yeah, you might actually get something out of that. And just to kind of wrap this up, we do know that more information is coming on the 30th. I'm hoping for a full reveal, or at the very least an explanation of what Project Red is. If it's going to be one series, or if it is going to be something of like a catch-all, and we'll see a whole bunch of franchises as a part of it. It's definitely a way of keeping things fresh. I will say that. Like, if they're concerned about toy sales stagnating because they're releasing the same old thing over and over, this is definitely a way of keeping it fresh and bringing new stuff every single time, right? So I can understand that logic. For now, all we have is a good shot of the logo. There it is, Super Space Sheriff Gavan Infinity. I am really curious what they're up to here. So on the 30th, I don't necessarily think I'm going to do like a full video about Gavan. I wanted to do this because it's the death of Super Sentai, which is a huge deal for me because it's what got me into proper tokusatsu out of Japan. You know, I started with Deca Ranger because I got bored of Power Rangers after Dino Thunder decided to be the series of let's bring Tommy back, but then keep him off camera as long as possible. So I got a little bit disenfranchised, decided how I wanted to see how Japan did it. And Deca Ranger was a really good series, you know? It's what I like to quote of like, hey, would you like to see Power Rangers where an episode revolves around illegal underground pit fighting? Deca Ranger. Yeah, and I kept up with it for a long time until recent years where I've just been falling off of like tokusatsu in general until recently. But yeah, it's an amazing run. It's an amazing run. So officially we put a capstone on Super Sentai. Maybe we see it come back in the future. It definitely needs a major overhaul if they do. And until then, we seem to dance around the Toei universe, which is also kind of exciting in and of itself. So let me know what you think of Project Red so far, the new look for Gavan, and the potential direction they could go in this, if it really is an anthology series rather than just Metal Heroes is back. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.